I want to talk about the narrative of the anti-war president and what that really means. There is a very specific and carefully crafted narrative that Donald Trump has spent years sort of cultivating and that many of his supporters have actually fallen for. And it's the idea that Donald Trump is truly deeply anti-war as a matter of principle. He's the guy who finally stood up to the deep state. He's the guy who rejects the forever wars of the neocons and of the Democrats. And on the campaign trail, Trump would repeatedly sell himself as the only real candidate. And by the way, the only president during his first term who didn't start any new conflicts. And for a long time, that branding was kind of sticking. It never really made sense, but it was kind of sticking. But if you now look at 2025, as we get ready to head into 2026, that is a narrative that is not just falling apart. It is reversed, where now I look at Trump and I see a guy who is actively starting all sorts of new conflicts. You look at Trump's second term, and he is governing as a president who is quick to reach for military force. He's using military force more broadly. He's using it with fewer institutional checks than on almost any modern predecessor. And hilariously, a lot of the same people who fell for Trump as the anti-war president are the people who fell for Tulsi Gabbard's grift as the only true liberal, the only actual Democratic candidate against the forever wars back when she ran for president in the Democratic primary. And it starts with something that might sound symbolic. Then we're going to get to the specific instances of aggression. But this year, the administration started informally, they say formally, but it's sort of informally referring to the Pentagon as the Department of War in all official communications and internal materials. Now, that might sound like a gimmick. You go, that's bluster. Well, it isn't really, because it reflects how this presidency now views the military. It doesn't view the military and war as a last resort. It views it as the default tool. That's our default. Let's get going with some kind of military intervention. And look at the examples we have from the first year of Donald Trump's second term. The U.S. started executing airstrikes on vessels in the Caribbean as part of what the administration called Operation Southern Spear. Now, Trump said this is a maritime operation against narco traffickers. In practice, it was a naval blockade of Venezuela. It is a form of an act of war without formally declaring that it is a war. And we know that at least dozens of strikes were carried out. It resulted in over 100 deaths. And this was the first major U.S. kind of kinetic action in South America since the invasion of Panama in 1989. That is a huge escalation under the anti-war President Donald Trump. Then came Nigeria. Now, I know that many of you are probably saying, Nigeria? This happened just days ago. We had a holiday here in the U.S. Maybe people didn't see this. Days ago, Trump authorized what he described as numerous perfect strikes against Islamic State affiliates in northwestern Nigeria. He made the announcement on Truth Social where he said, quote, "Tonight at my direction as commander-in-chief, the United States launched a powerful and deadly strike against ISIS terrorist scum in northwest Nigeria, who have been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians at levels not seen for many years and even centuries. I have previously warned these terrorists if they did not stop the slaughtering of Christians, there would be hell to pay, and tonight there was. The Department of War executed numerous perfect strikes, as only the United States is capable of doing. Under my leadership, our country will not allow radical Islamic terrorism to prosper. May God bless our military, and Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists, of which there will be many more, if their slaughter of Christians continues. No authorization vote, no public discussion, just missiles." The anti-war president. Earlier this year, we saw Operation Rough Rider in Yemen, the largest U.S. military operation in the Middle East since Donald Trump's first term. This huge air and naval campaign against Houthi targets that resulted in hundreds of casualties and escalated regional tensions there as well. Then we have Iran, where over the summer, Trump authorized direct stealth bomber strikes on Iranian nuclear enrichment sites. Not a warning shot, not a symbolic thing. It was an offensive gamble, and it pushed the region closer to a full-scale war. So by no serious definition is this an anti-war presidency. Trump didn't end the wars. He isn't acting like an anti-war president. He's not treating military force as a last resort with diplomacy as the ideal and the goal. He is using the military almost like a messaging tool. The strike in Nigeria becomes a Christmas announcement to his base. A blockade in the Caribbean is proof of how tough Trump is. And you could make the case, I believe pretty accurately, that this is more dangerous than traditional interventionism. When a president sees missiles as a way to project dominance rather than as part of an actual strategy, the guardrails disappear. If presidents see missiles as part of a strategy, then and we might go, I don't think it's the right tactic for the strategy. That is one sort of disagreement. But Trump is merely using missiles and bombings to project strength and dominance. And there's no diplomatic off-ramp when it's not really about resolving conflicts. What's also telling is the reaction or lack thereof from his so-called anti-war base. The people who spent years saying Trump's the anti-war guy, these Democrats are obsessed with starting wars, Hillary would start 4 wars, Biden would start 4 wars. Trump then launches attacks in Nigeria, escalates in Yemen, authorizes more bombing in a single year than previous administrations did in 4, and it suddenly becomes peace through strength. And they go, no, Trump knows what he's doing. They aren't really anti-war. They were anti-Obama war. They were anti-Biden war, but they don't care when it's Trump. A functional democracy has to treat war as something that is difficult to start. There would have to be debate. There would have to be transparency. There would have to be authorization. Trump's dismantled all of it, and he governs with this impulsive escalation and almost no oversight. 30 years from now, I hope that 2025 won't be remembered as a period of restraint under an anti-war president. It should be remembered as a moment when the world's most powerful military started to be the personal instrument of political theater for President Donald Trump. So Trump is not the anti-war president. He's the most unpredictable war president that we've ever had, but maybe one of the most bloodthirsty as well. Thanks for watching. Check out this other video. And if you like our content, make sure to subscribe so YouTube puts our videos in your feed, and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple.